Okay, the first order of business this morning is to go ahead and get rid of these crappy battery terminals. There's so many things wrong with it. You got dirty cables, they're not lined up right, so they're not compressed properly. You got paint under here, which is prohibiting the circuit from going through there. You've got a bolt right here or a wire eye underneath that, and see the gap right there? There's nothing to push against, so that'll continually work looser and looser. It needs to be over on this side somewhere, or it needs to be on a different type terminal. And speaking of terminals, I have a few different ones. This is my preferred terminal to use on the post, and that gives us a stud to anchor everything to. And notice too that this nut right here, see how that's got a smooth edge? You don't see that on this one here. It's just a plain old nut. Well, that smooth edge is there so it can compress this and pull it in straight and not give a lot of friction and just grind the heck out of the lead, because the angles or the sharp corners are away from the lead. You got this smooth round shoulder and it won't cut into it and wear it out so quick. So that's the number one terminal I like to use. This is what's called a military ordnance terminal, and they're also extremely good terminals. You put it on there like that, tighten it down. It has the same type of nut on it and bolt, but instead of having a stud coming up, it has a stud coming through, and this is reinforced with a piece of brass in there, so it's a very strong connection and it won't overly compress. So that's a really good connector, but they are kind of expensive. This is another type, it's similar to that first one I showed you, which was a marine style battery terminal. And I like this one really well, but see, if you look inside there, you got two rings, one at the top and one at the bottom, and that limits the amount of amperage you can get coming through it. I've never had a problem, but they're not really recommended for big V8 motors, and this is a 5.2 V8. So I can use it, but I'm not real thrilled about it. Some terminals that I just picked up, these are tin plated brass. They have a real good surface area, very modern design with the split terminal with the wedge bolt coming up from the bottom, and it has the same type of stud that I like on top for connecting all your wires to. And I got the okay, and I believe I'm going to go ahead and try these out and see how they work. Now let's see how well I can work this all out on video. Video is not my strong suit, but I'm getting better at it. This is a 12mm nut. A better terminal would have a 1/2 inch. These are going to be these are 7/16 or 11mm. And of course I picked up a 10 just out of force of habit. Had a pretty good little sparklage there. I guess there's something going on I'm gonna have to look into. But see, I don't know if you can see that or not, but you got this strap and then you got a bolt going through it with the nut. Well, there's paint inside that hole, so the nut is not going to have any electrical connection, so you lose everything there. And on the other side you got paint, so you have no electrical connection. And then you got paint down in the grooves half the time, and the people, when they strip them back with this mess right here, they don't get it laid in there straight so it'll fit, and there's too much cable for that slot, so it'll never fit right. And they're extremely thin lead, extremely thin lead, so they won't hold up with any tension on them at all. But we want to see how this is going to fit on there. Let's see, that is the positive terminal, so we're not going to worry with that one. This is the negative one, and it seems to fit pretty well. have to switch back to the 10mm because I need to loosen that nut up a little bit so I can tap it on there. And if you've never seen these before, this is a pair of battery terminal shapers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spread this wedge out. Let's open this slot up and get that down there as far as I can. And then we're going to be looking at, I prefer to have them straight one way or the other, but I don't think we're going to have let me see if I can bring this over here. It'll look so much better if it's square like that. I think that's the way I'm going to do it. Now the test is now the test on this is it tight or not? And buddy, that's tight. But it's not square, so it's going to take me a minute of fiddling with that to get it just the way I want it. There, that's on there nice now. Now I got to try and get this cable on there. And we got plenty of cable there, so I think I'm going to cut that off and get a nice straight edge. And we've got enough cable here that I can do the same thing. So I'm going to cut all that off and start over again. Apparently I have an incoming phone call. Hopefully that doesn't interrupt anything too much. And I have wire strippers for this, but on bigger cable I prefer using a razor blade. Let's see if that's enough to get it opened up. Yeah, not quite what I'd wanted, but it'll come out okay. Now you can see those are much better looking, they're much straighter, but they're really not that clean, so I'm going to get a wire brush and take care of that. And I reverse the rotation of the drill so it doesn't walk down the cable.
This is a fine old movie.
Yes, it is. I have a specialty bay just for setup for just these things.
I'm gonna get a paint this make my car.
Yep. Probably be a good thing. Yeah.
You find his evap leak?
You don't have an evap leak.
Does not?
No. He hasn't. He has an evap code.
Okay.
The evap code is there because there's no power going to this. There's no power going to that because somebody pulled the number 11 fuse out from the interior. That goes to that, and it also goes to the overhead console with the compass and all that kind of stuff. Don't know why they pulled it. But I talked to him this morning and was explaining battery cable connections to him and everything, and it turns out that most of his problem is he's running along and it cuts out and loses power. He has to pull over the side of the road and jump it off. So we're going to start with fixing the battery cables and then check for drains, and then we're going to move on from there. The charging system and all that good junk, you know. I did find some pretty cool battery terminals replacements. They're like the modern ones, but they're marine style.
Yeah, it's nice.
They're kind of pricey. They're about $15 a set.
That's those.
Amazon. Amazon. Everything's got an Amazon, isn't it? It's terrible. Now, is that the same size? We want that. You got a bunch of good stuff going on this morning?
Waiting on a part.
Waiting on a part. The story of your life.
Condenser was wrong.
The condenser was wrong.
Most of them have the transmission oil cooler in the condenser.
Yep. And that one doesn't.
Did not.
Yeah, because it was in front of it.
I assume because it's a Citadel, maybe an upgraded system. I know it's got front and rear air. And that condenser just don't exist.
Is it made out of unobtainium?
Well, I mean, it's just not, I guess it's just not common. They
Well-
said they got one coming, but.
Well, would the other one fit if you and just left the cooler lines plugged up and used the tool that's on it?
You're gonna lose that much capacity out of the condenser. And I have to assume they've done that because it's got a dual unit.
Yep. Probably so.
I mean, most Durangos don't have front and rear air. I don't think.
I imagine there's a few, but like you said, most of them ain't gonna have it. Don't you love it when you find a terminal that fits just right? You know, I had a bunch of terminals, butt connectors and ring terminals and stuff like that in the shop, and I was, because we used to sell them online, and I was having to go to a bag and pull them out and this and that and the other. I had my son-in-law that worked for me at the time. I said, make me up some kits that have them all, put them all in order, put part numbers in them, the whole 9 yards, so when I need them I can just reorder them and everything. And he did it, and I got another case over there. And I looked at it, I said, man, I got terminals. And then I started thinking, how much does this stuff cost? And those 3 trays are about $600.
Yes, especially now.
Yeah. When I had it, probably over 1,000. Ain't that crazy?
So what do you crimp that with?
Nipex.
All right.
They're smooth jaw pliers, but they're very good for cracking walnuts.
All right.
But you can get a phenomenal grip on them if you don't pull the cable out of it before you smash it.
Oh wow. Okay.
I like having a D10 in it, and I've looked for an adapter to put on these. Or I think Nipex actually makes one just for crimping that got the little nib on it. But you can work it back and forth, and that ain't coming off. But I also followed up with sweating it on with some solder. So
So it's got a lever deal here.
yeah. See the cam action on it. And if you just if you put your finger in there and squeeze it, oh my God, this thing's got some leverage. And if you really want to crack some hard walnuts or hickory nuts or something, they'll do it. Now, get back to doing this. That one fits properly. Wow. There's a hell of a drain on this thing somewhere. That one fits properly, but I don't really like it. Let me see, because I like that heavier one. But if I double that up, I don't think it'll go in there. So we're going to go with the right size one. If we're going to go with the right size one, we'll clip this a little bit out off the end. Because I got to trim it off because I don't want all that sticking out. So I got to trim it some more. You want a little bit sticking out, but not too much. I think it's about time to get a new pair of pliers because they don't cut nearly as good as they used to. Of course, it could be that I'm getting old. It's the pliers though, I think. I can't be getting old. Sooner or later I'll get it the way I want it. There we go. Yeah, see, can we see that terminal over there? What I'm gonna do now is solder this thing up. And I put my heat on the back side of it and angle it away from the insulation on the cable until I can see the solder crawl on it. That's just perfect. And the main purposes for that solder is, number one, it seals up this open edge so water can't get in and infiltrate it, cause corrosion. And then number two, it does wick further back up in here a little bit so it adds a little bit of extra strength to it. So it's a twofold thing. And now I've got to try and find some heat shrink tubing to go over that. I should have stuck a piece on this to start with, but I didn't. Would have been much easier. The razor blade's getting dull. Now I'm just going to put some heat shrink on it, and that puts the final seal on it, because this has got a glue inside of it. Those are two really fine connectors. Now I'm going to check for drain condition. And we got a 440 milliamps or 0.44 amps drain in it. So it does have a drain. It's killing the battery. And I'm going to go around there and pull that fuse number 11 out that I stuck in last night. It goes to the central timer module, so it might go ahead and take care of it. Well, I pulled it out and it didn't make much of any difference, but I hear something with the radio in there ticking, so I'm going to have to go ahead and get that other cable connection finished up too and get everything clean and tight before I can really get serious about checking for the drain. Now, I'm going to do the same thing again. How can you expect that to work on anything? I don't know why people do these things. And what we're going to do here, got to get that thing set up on there. I'm trying to decide if I want to put it like that. I think I'll put it like that at a nice 90-degree angle. And again, I'm going to open the terminal up a little bit, slide it down there in the wedge as far as I can get it. Get it squared up with the world. And tighten it down. Now, I have to start working with trying to find the right size eyes for that. Well, now let's see about getting some heat shrink on that. We're going to see about soldering these. Turn my flame back up. It was warm. That's a little warm. We'll let it cool off for a few minutes and then we'll be good to go. On the red heat shrink, I like using a regular heat gun, electric heat gun, because the torch discolors the red too much. Ain't that pretty? Now, I've still got to wait for it to cool down a little bit. What we're going to do, I'm going to bring this one underneath there so it'll tuck in nice there. Bring that one there. That one there. And we're going to bring that one there. That heat shrink that they got on there is too far underneath the nut. I just got to cut it out of there so the nut won't be riding on the plastic. Oh, and that's even worse. Hopefully then. I will go back and check that after everything's cooled down good. Now, we'll take this terminal loose and then check for a drain. And the way we check for a drain is to establish a good ground. Put the backup battery power there. And probably find a better place than that. We're gonna go right there. So now I can pull this off. And see no spark because I've got the other battery taking its place. And now I can hook my meter in. One there. One there. And then I'll take my jump box off. And we have a 0.43 or 430 milliamp drain. And what I will do is I will let that sit for about an hour and see what goes away. But you know what I'm probably going to do? I suspect that radio has something to do with it. So I am going to go back to that positive terminal, take the nut off real quick while holding the terminals in there, and slide that blue cable off. Now if I'm right, when I pull this blue cable off, that'll go to nearly 0. I just got to hold the other 2 in place. And I was not right, that's not the cause of it. So, just for the fun of it, this one goes back to the fuse box, so that's the one to power everything. This other one is going to wind up going to the starter, so that's not likely to be it. But just for the fun of it, something on a fuse circuit is killing it, nothing on the starter. So we know that right away.